The next words you hear come from a Palestinian mother in the West Bank village of Tel, the epicenter of escalating settler tensions and military crackdowns. She's been revoiced by my colleague at Middle East Eye to protect her identity.
The situation is one of continuous incursions throughout the day. They keep coming in and out. At night, however, the situation is different. There are military incursions, arrests, and raids on people's homes. On the first day, more than 55 people were arrested. They carried out field interrogations after taking over a house and turning it into an interrogation center. I tell my 5-year-old son the truth. I tell him that the settlers came into the area and they might attack people. I do not want him to be disconnected from reality because he could find himself in the middle of such an event, and that would affect him even more psychologically. Even our children stay with us all the time, waiting because the army could enter at any moment. They no longer sleep in their own rooms. Instead, they sleep in the living room and we all stay awake together. Of course I am afraid. We remain constantly on edge. Our nights have turned into days.
On Friday morning, dozens of Israeli settlers, some armed, entered the village of Tel, southwest of Nablus. They were met with resistance, and by the time the shooting stopped, 4 Palestinians and 2 Israelis were dead. Escalation followed as the Israeli military announced extensive counterterrorism operations targeting Palestinian locals. They deployed 5 additional combat companies, raided a hospital, detained hundreds, and put dozens of communities under lockdown. Settlers have set homes alight and burned 2 mosques on 1 scorched wall, a single Hebrew word, revenge. But the escalation did not begin on July the 24th. It merely intensifies a steady transformation of the West Bank under Israel's most right-wing government in history, expanding settlements, state-backed settler violence, and whole communities pushed off generational land. Coming up, we'll speak to Israeli humanitarian turned politician in the upcoming election, Orly Noy. But first, here to bring us the latest from the ground is Palestinian human rights defender and head of the Stop the Wall campaign, Jamal Juma, along with Middle East Eye's Jerusalem bureau chief, Lubna Masarwa. Jamal, Lubna, welcome to MEE Live. Jamal, where are you joining us from? And just talk us through the situation for Palestinians living in the West Bank at this current moment in time.
Thank you very much for this very important report that you are doing. I'm joining you from Ramallah. Maybe the report that you were just showing on about Tel, this is exactly what's happening every day in most of the Palestinian area. And number talks. In the first 6 months of this year, 11,000 attacks, over 11,000 attacks by settlers and military on the Palestinian community. That's ranging of 2,000 attacks daily, monthly. So we can imagine, this is a war. This is a war on the Palestinian people. 24 Palestinians has been killed by settlers. Today we are not talking about isolated incident like that's happening in the West Bank. This is a very well organized militias that launching terror on the Palestinian villages everywhere. And there is a plan behind it. Who's behind the settler? Behind the settlers is the government itself. The whole ministry with the budget that allocated for training, militarizing, and also equipping all the settlers with all what they need. And most of them are in the soldiers in the Israeli military. You need to see that when they call for attack on a village, you find that they are coming at a certain point, at a certain time from all the settlements around with thousands of numbers of settlers armed, backed up with the military soldiers in case of Palestinian retaliation. That's about the settlers' attacks. And you can imagine what comes with these attacks. You have been shown in the video, the burning the trees, the fields, the mosques, the schools, the houses, wherever they can reach. Mostly in the villages, even worse than that. There is a clear attempt to start ethnically cleanse the villages as well, displace them. And that's what's so clear for us from occupying houses at the edges of the villages. Many villages now, their settlers have been occupying houses guarded by the Israeli military. And from there, they start to launch their attacks on the rest of the houses around, trying step by step to evacuate the villages. That's what was happening and still going on against the Palestinian Bedouin communities, which is more than 120 now that has been already ethnically cleansed out of 450 locations that all those under heavy attacks. About the daily life, you can't imagine. And we used to say before, like before years as Palestinians, that, it will never become worse than the situation that we are living. Nowadays, we are saying, like, oh, let's enjoy this day because what's coming tomorrow is the worst.
Jamal, thank
So
you.
this is how.
Thank you. Lubna, let's bring you in here. For one thing, you seem very on edge listening to the updates coming from Jamal. I suppose the situation is very fraught right now. We just heard a clip from an interview you did with a Palestinian mother in Tel. What can you tell us about how she was doing, about her experiences, and how that lines up with the account Jamal just gave?
Yeah, I think she just gave a very small window of the daily life of Palestinians, not just in this past week, but this violence of settlers committed against Palestinians have been documented since the first few days of the occupation. And the woman Nahil that we interviewed here, she just described that how she lives in her house, just have to hide all the time, being awake all night just in case there are raids, having her kids in the house, being afraid also their father will be arrested. And also I have to say that all the edges of the village, which Jamal mentions, it's the areas that are close more to Chavat Gilad settlement, are families left their houses. The men are staying there to protect the houses from the raids, and the children and their mothers staying inside the village in more some kind of secure area. The situation is very difficult in the West Bank. It have been like this, and the violence have been increased a lot after October the 7th in the shadow of the genocide. When the genocide have been normalized, these actions have been kind of nothing, and nobody report about it, nobody speak about it. And I think just only when there is 2 Israeli victims who've been killed in this accident, then somehow this case coming out to public. And sometimes I must say, when there is Israeli activists who join Palestinian farmers to dare to go to their lands, when the victim or the one who been beaten or attacked is Israeli, sometimes it's captured some sort of a news also inside Israel.
So basically, this isn't new. What we're seeing in the West Bank, this violence isn't new, but it's being reported suddenly across international media only now because
there's Israelis involved in that, and because, of course, it's a debate in Israel if the Palestinians have the right to protect themselves or not to protect, if it's terrorism or not terrorism. But we have over 24 Palestinians who were killed by civilian armed settlers. And when I said armed, there's like thousands of arms and guns with these private guns with these settlers. Ben-Gvir gave license to hundreds of thousands to receive weapons, and even sometimes you don't need even to do an interview to get gun, just to have sometimes in the phone and you have guns. Palestinians are exposed to very vulnerable situation of being attacked in a daily basis. And then when I'm saying attacked, it's been either killed, either beaten, their animals being stolen, poisoned, burning houses. Just a week before this accident in Tel Village, Suhaib Ramadan in July 19, a group of settlers dressed all black, masked, came very early to their house and burn it. He managed to rescue his family in the last minute, but all of the house, including furniture, all of their belongings were burned, and there's no protection. And of course, this could be catastrophe like the case of the Wabshi family. If you remember, in 2000, for 15, a whole family was killed because of settlers burned the house. So this is the daily situation.
And there's no protection, but there's no coverage.
There is no protection. There is no coverage. There is people the only thing they can do in Tel, for example, is building this WhatsApp group, just updating when the army coming in, when the settlers coming in, and they just buy their own, just like this. And since the October the 7th, there is no red lines for Israel. Israel is doing everything, and the settlers are very dominant. They are very strong. They have, it's not a small case or situation. It's a systematic violence that led by the state. They're sitting in the government. They have representatives. And I think now, especially before the elections in Israel, when Netanyahu want to satisfy the settlers who want their votes, so he just go ahead and completely giving them a green light to just do whatever they want and destroy and burn and kill. And you never hear about anyone who were arrested or questioned by the Israeli police on these occasions.
We're going to return to that question of protection for Palestinians. Jamal, on this point about when this all began, we're being told that the violence happening in the West Bank now, that these are reprisal attacks. This is retribution. This is revenge for something that happened on Friday when 2 Israelis were killed along with 4 Palestinians. That's not just coming out of Israeli media and politicians' mouths. That's the narrative that we're seeing in a lot of the international media. These attacks are retributive. In other words, in some way deserved. Is that accurate? When would you say this violence was triggered?
This media that just like taking the Israeli narrative and started to spread it out and convince their audience, and they have to review their code of ethics. They have a real moral crisis, because simply if you just like make a little bit efforts and try to phone call or to see another resources of media, you will see that this is a Palestinian civilians unarmed under attack ongoing since years now. So, and this is the crisis of human rights law and international law. This is what has been deep in the crisis of the international law, beside the policy of the imperialist governments like the United States, mainly with this administration now. But like the media is contributing to this, unfortunately, which it shouldn't be. What we expect from media is to be a little bit honest, and trying to give out the truth to the people. They know that there is a genocide is going in Gaza until now. I'm wondering if this media that you are talking about, we're talking about genocide or using this term. There is an ethnic cleansing and silent genocide to the Palestinian communities in the West Bank. That's going on. There is a Palestinian economy that's collapsing, and there is a Palestinian society that never been in poor situation like this time. Nobody talked about it. But when an Israeli settler killed, we're attacking and trying to kill the Palestinians. When Palestinians defend themselves, then became a retaliation, became a revenge, became who's revenging from who? If somebody attack your house and come to kill you, and you defend yourself, and he has been killed in this operation, they also, he has to bring people. These other people have to come to revenge from you because you didn't allow him to kill you. So they want us a nice victim. They want us to be killed and slaughtered, and without protesting, even without our voices here. I'm so angry about this media, and I'm saying that there is a time that it should be stopped and to look at themselves in the mirror of what they are doing.
And this term revenge that's being quoted, it's being graffitied around West Bank villages by settlers. Graffiti is not a new tactic. It's an old settler tactic that dates back decades and is used to intimidate, to communicate certain political messages. Can you just tell us, Jamal, what graffiti is being seen across the West Bank today, and what impact does that have on Palestinians who live inside those walls?
First of all, the media didn't see the graffitis there. It is in a mosque that has been burned, and its schools and its houses, this graffitis that has been written on this. This is to show the settlers' domination over the Palestinians, and it's part of trying to kill any hope with the Palestinians and they tell the Palestinians, we have the upper hand, we can kill you, we can burn your mosques, your houses, we can kill your children, and you need to shut up. That's the message from this graffitis. This is criminal. This is crimes by the international law. This is what should be talking about. This is it. Look, this is a mosque that has been burned to the ground. Can you imagine if this is a synagogue that has been burned like this? It will be the whole world standing on one leg.
Thank you.
So that's what we seek in Palestine. What we want is a justice. We want the media and the West to look at us as a human being.
Thank you, Jamal. Now, Lubna, you said that Palestinians are completely unprotected at this time.
I will continue from Jamal's point that it's a question is like, we are in era of time, international law have been disabled. And I just said like Palestinians are very exposed at the moment to direct violence. And I would ask the question if not only the media, like where is the international community in terms of the governments and diplomats? What action they should take or not take and against this violence that's been taken for decades against Palestinians? That Nahil in this summer holiday have to hide her 5 children in a house and not let them even to go to outside house to protect them from any settler attacks, army raids. And this is a serious question that I will again bring to our conversation.
What international community action, and Jamal, I put this to you as well, what international community action would actually work? Because something we've seen since October 7th is an Israeli political climate that is increasingly immune to international criticism. So I suppose it's one thing to say international action is needed. It's another thing to work out what international action would actually impact what settlers are doing in the West Bank.
I would say that, before the October the 7th, there was some kind of red line. You can call it soft diplomacy if you want, that international governments in Europe or Britain or the US will condemn any Israeli action on building settlements or violence. Today we don't have this. Not from the side of the international community and not from and Israel now don't care. That's why we see such a massive tsunami of very vulgar and provocative attacks that have taking place every day. There's no one can stop this. And I'm talking I've been sitting once not just before I came here to visit. I was sitting in front of a grandfather who was expelled from his land in the Jordan Valley, living near the village of Taibe, sitting with 20 stitches in his head to his chest, with his grandchild. His animals were stolen and being attacked by settlers, his wife attacked by settlers, and you sit in front of him and you don't know what to tell him.
Jamal, would you agree that the international community, certainly needs to do more? What is it that you would call on the international community to do in the face of this impunity and violence?
I think this is a kind of struggle that we have to continue as a Palestinian people with the international movements and people around the world, because we differentiate. In fact, if we look at what was happening in the streets everywhere, like during the genocide, that was amazing. That was very important. This is the hope for us to rescue what we called the international law and at least the human code of ethics. The other part that it needs to be stand in front of the responsibility, and that's the responsibility of the movements and the people as well, is to implement their laws that they have been put. I'm talking about European Union. You are dealing with a genocidal regime. There is people killed every day. Other than that, what's happening in the West Bank? This is a violation for the international law, for the international agreements that you are witnessing and you are overseeing, which is mainly what's happening in the West Bank by the settlers. And by the way, this is very organized. I call them like the settlers that doing these attacks. This is a paramilitary militias that they are the spearhead of the Israeli government in implementing the annexation and the ethnic cleansing of the West Bank. So they are not separated. So the one who should be punished for that is the Israeli government. When we talk about BDS, Israel has to be isolated, has to be an pariah state, which is now by the people. What needs from the government is to stop trading with Israel, especially military trade. Stop providing Israel with ammunition and the weapons that they are killing the people, not just in Palestine, but as well in Lebanon, as well in Syria, as well in Gaza. That's still going on.
And because those very weapons that you talk about that are coming from, for example, the US going to the Israeli government, those are being put in settler hands by Ben Gvir, National Security Minister, who, as you've mentioned, is directly arming Israeli settlers. So, okay, that's the international community. But what about the Palestinian? Where is the PA?
Yeah, this is a very, very big debate and disappointment within the Palestinian people and movements, by the way. Anyway, we can't hide it anymore. Yeah, the Palestinian Authority takes the position of survival, no matter what's happened. Even if they kill the Palestinians in the villages, or if they have been ethnically cleansed all the area C, if they destroy villages, if they burn villages, they don't anymore even hear their voices to condemn what's happening. And honestly, this is a shame. We are not, as a Palestinian people, we are very shocked that we reached to this point where supposedly the Palestinian leaders is watching the Palestinians slaughtered and the Palestinian land stolen every day. Palestinian villages is under threat of ethnic cleansing and destruction. So there is no justification whatsoever. If the price of standing is that the authority will collapse, let the authority collapse. And anyway, Israel is in the process of collapsing the Palestinian Authority, no matter what they did. If they are collaborators, they are not collaborators. If they cooperate with Israel, they don't cooperate. The Israeli Zionist vision is to collapsing the Palestinian Authority simply because we don't want any representative to something called for them, from their point of view, a Palestinian people. They don't want to see a Palestinian people. What they are pushing when we talk about annexation plan is just pushing the Palestinians in the minimum area in the West Bank, fragmented, different ghettos, south, middle, east, west, that's separated from each other. So that's how they want the Palestinian people. And this is a model of Gaza. In fact, if you look about the impact of what's happening, when we talk about the ethnic cleansing between communities, you know what does this mean? The whole animal production has been get rid of. 85% of the Palestinian needs from the animal production is coming from this community. While they are blocking now the Palestinian villages with over 1,200 gates and with all these obstacles and more than 400 outposts now that blocking the Palestinian, occupying the Palestinian fields. They don't want the Palestinians to reach their olive groves in the West Bank. You know what does it mean, this? One of the main economy is collapsing. We used to export yearly from 5,000 to 15,000 tons of olive oil. We are going to import now olive oil from neighboring countries or from Europe. I don't know from where. If you talk about 200,000 Palestinian workers, since now 3 years, they are sitting in their homes. They don't know how to feed their children. Palestinian companies not anymore can function. There's more than 68,000 workers now became thrown to the unemployment because of this. If you want to travel in the West Bank from city to the city, it takes 6 hours, which is normally take 1 hour or 2 hours. So they are pushing the Palestinian society for collapsing. So the situation is much more dangerous than what the people see.
What recourse is there for Palestinians? So there's silence from the international community. There's no Palestinian Authority. Some of what's happening, even by Israel standards, is clearly illegal. What can Palestinians do in the West Bank if their home, if their livestock is stolen or shot? Is there anywhere that they can turn to for some sort of judicial process?
This year, by the way, 4,000 Palestinian sheep has been stolen from the villages in between Ramallah and Nablus, a little bit to the Jordan Valley slopes. So I think what we need the Palestinians to do now is the main strategy that we are have to follow is to steadfast, to keep standing, and to resist the ethnic cleansing, the evacuation of our communities, to find the means how we can depend on ourselves and trying to generate what can keep standing and resisting in the middle of all what's happening, and how Israeli looks like, and how the Palestinian Authority looks like, and what the Americans and Europeans are busy with. So, yeah, Palestinians are exposed more than any time before. They are under attack every day by soldiers, by Israeli settlers. 20,000 Palestinians has been arrested, just like in 1 year. This is showed that there is daily attacks, daily arresting of the Palestinian people. And now there is Israelis seriously talking about evacuating another refugee camp, which is mostly going to be Kalandi refugee camp.
Lubna, is there anything that you want to add to that?
I just want to add a few last lines that I don't think Israel leaving many choices for Palestinians when you look at the picture and being exposed, as I mentioned. And I do think that this may lead to a third intifada and to massive protests inside the West Bank. And this is a scenario that also Israeli, some would call them mainstream, afraid of. That's why they started some to call to take actions against the settler violence. But I can't see any, if the international community and Israel that will not stop this massive, impossible life conditions and violence, and also closing the roads, accessing, moving now in the West Bank, takes you hours within 20 kilometers. It would take you a whole day. So I can imagine, as a Palestinian who knows very well the field in Palestine and especially in the West Bank, I would not be surprised if there would be a massive protest and intifada in the West Bank.
Jamal Juma, thank you so much for your time. And Lubna Masarwa, thank you for being here.